Everyone on our street knew that Jane and I grew up together. Her mom called me her future son-in-law, and my mom called her their future daughter-in-law. They'd been saying it for over 10 years, so long that even we almost started believing it ourselves. But ending up married and actually wanting to get married were never the same thing. Chapter 1. At 9 that night, the barbecue stand at the old street corner had just replaced the charcoal, the flames glowing bright red. Gabriel and I sat at the table against the wall. 2 beers, a plate of edamame, plus the complimentary peanuts the owner always threw in. Jane sat on my right, head lowered as she replied to messages at lightning speed, her fingers practically fighting the screen. I didn't ask who she was chatting with. I simply reached over and poured her half a cup of warm water. Without even looking up, she locked her phone screen and said, "I need to head out for a bit. Damien's got a stomachache. He's squatting downstairs outside his apartment building right now, so I'm bringing him some medicine." Before I could say anything, her phone buzzed again. A preview notification popped up at the top of the screen. "Damien, hurry up. I feel like I'm dying here." She quickly swiped the notification away and looked up at me. "Don't give me that look. I'm just helping someone out." Gabriel clicked his tongue but said nothing, sneaking a glance at me instead. My hand paused halfway while picking up a peanut. "He doesn't have hands of his own?" I asked. Jane frowned. "Can you stop being so sarcastic? He's seriously not feeling well." "Oh, what do you mean?" "Oh, nothing." I tossed the peanut into my mouth. "Take it slow on the way." She grabbed her bag and left. Halfway out, she turned back again. "Don't overthink it. I'll be back soon." I nodded. "Go ahead." The moment she left, Gabriel set down his cup. "Man, your reaction is honestly scaring me." "What reaction am I supposed to have? With the kind of relationship you two have, everyone already thinks you're halfway to the marriage office, and now she's running off to another guy's place in the middle of the night, and you're telling her to take it slow." I smiled faintly without lifting my head. "She's just my childhood sweetheart. I never said I was definitely going to marry her. And besides, neither of us ever confessed anything. She's not even my girlfriend." Gabriel stared at me for 3 seconds, then cursed under his breath. "You're really fucking ruthless." I didn't respond. I just picked up my beer bottle and clinked it against his drink. After several more bottles, I got a voice message first. Damien had deliberately turned on speaker mode. In the background was Jane's voice. "The medicine's on the table. Drink the porridge first." Then came Damien's smug reply. "All right, I'll listen to you." At 10:30, Damien sent me a photo. In the picture, Jane was in the kitchen wearing an apron, holding a bowl of porridge. Damien sat at the dining table flashing a peace sign at the camera. Caption: "Your girl's cooking skills are pretty good. Borrowing her for the night." I looked at it, took a screenshot directly, and felt absolutely nothing. Gabriel leaned over for a look and nearly spat out his beer. This guy seriously has a death wish. Whether he's scared of dying or not, I don't know. I placed my phone face down on the table. "But there's no reason to ruin my life over something like this. So are you going or not?" "Nope. You're really not going." I slowly stood up and grabbed my jacket. "What for?" "So I can become entertainment for them." Gabriel still looked like he wanted to say something, but I had already gone ahead to pay the bill. On the way home, the shops along the street closed one after another, while the streetlights stretched the shadows long across the pavement. There were no dramatic scenes in my head, just one painfully cliché sentence repeating itself over and over. "So people really can fall out of love all at once." Not long after I got home, Jane returned. The second she walked in, she smelled the ginger tea I had made. Even while changing her shoes, she deliberately kept her voice soft. "You're still awake?" "Yeah." She walked over and placed the medicine bag on the coffee table, sounding slightly coaxing. Damien really had a fever. He could barely stand earlier. I stayed until he took the medicine before coming back. "MHM. That's it. Just MHM. What else am I supposed to say?" She stared at me for 2 seconds, irritation rising. "Logan, why have you been talking with such an attitude lately?" I opened the photo and pushed the phone toward her. "How do you think you should explain this picture?" Chapter 2. Her expression changed instantly. Her first reaction was to snatch my phone. "Who sent this to you?" "Damien. What the hell is wrong with him?" "Whether something's wrong with him or not isn't my concern." I pulled the phone back. "What I care about is how you always assume I'll pretend not to see this stuff." She bit her lip, her tone hardening. "If it bothers you that much, then fine. I just won't go anymore." "Okay." She paused before adding another sentence. "Besides, we never officially confirmed our relationship anyway. So what exactly are you acting like this for?" I looked at her silently. The way I stared at her only irritated her more. She raised her voice. "The way you are right now is honestly kind of scary. You're not even my boyfriend. So what gives you the right to control me?" That line was brutal. Instead of getting angry, I laughed softly. "You're right. I'm not your boyfriend." She froze. I continued calmly. Then stop using the excuse that our families already see us as a couple to pressure me too. Assuming something isn't the same as signing papers. Her face turned pale from being cornered like that, and her temper exploded immediately. Fine then. Stop acting like you're the victim here. In the end, our families are still going to settle this marriage anyway. So what exactly are you putting on airs for now? I looked at her without responding. She mistook my silence for being speechless, which only made her angrier. Who I take care of is my business. Either admit openly that you're jealous, or stop standing there acting cold. Her eyes suddenly reddened. When did I ever pressure you? You know the answer yourself. After saying that, I stood up, went back to my room, and locked the door. Outside, things stayed quiet for more than 10 seconds before she knocked. Logan, open the door. Let's finish talking. I didn't open it. Don't be like this. I don't like how you are right now. From behind the door, I replied calmly. I don't like how you are right now either. After that, she stopped knocking. A little after 1 in the morning, she answered a phone call in the living room. Even though she deliberately kept her voice low, I still heard Damien's name. Yeah, I got home. You should sleep first. I lay in bed staring at the ceiling while my phone kept vibrating nonstop with her messages. Are you mad? I really only went to bring him medicine. I'll explain tomorrow. Don't shut me out. I didn't reply to a single one. Back then, if she sent one message, I'd reply with 10, terrified she might overthink things. Now, I only felt tired. Last month, Jane's grandmother had a minor surgery. The old woman lay in the hospital bed clutching both families' hands, refusing to let go, mumbling over and over. I just want to see the children settle their future first. Then I can finally relax. Both families had red eyes that day. So recently, both sides had been constantly urging us to start arranging the wedding process. Even setting a date first would have been enough. Chapter 3. Around noon the next day, my mom called me. The moment I answered, she got straight to the point. This weekend, bring Jane home for dinner. Your aunt brought back seafood from out of town, so we can also roughly discuss next year's wedding banquet. I stared at the report on my computer screen, my tone flat. Not going back this week. My mom paused. Didn't you already agree to it? A project suddenly came up at work. What kind of project doesn't even let people breathe on the weekend? Can't help it. It affects the year-end bonus. She went silent for 2 seconds before changing tactics. Then let Jane come by herself. Your dad's been saying she loves crab. She's not coming either. You asked her already? Yeah. My mom immediately sensed something was wrong and lowered her voice. Did you two have a fight? I set down the mouse. No. Stop fooling me. Seriously. No. I paused. I just think we should put the wedding banquet plans on hold for now. She exploded instantly on the other end. Put what on hold? You two grew up together. Everyone around us already knows you're going to become a family someday. And now you're saying to put it on hold. What other people know is their business. Logan. Mom, I'm going into a meeting. We'll talk later. I hung up directly. After the call ended, I stared at my phone for a while, my chest feeling unbearably heavy. I knew this phone call was only the beginning. It wouldn't just be my mom next. Jane's mom, my dad, her dad, they'd all take turns coming at me. But right now, I had no energy left to carry everyone's expectations. First, I needed to drag myself out of this messed up relationship. At 7 that evening, Jane came to my company to wait for me. She stood at the entrance of the lobby wearing the light gray coat I bought her, her eyes red like she hadn't slept. My mom got a call from your mom, she said immediately. What did you mean when you said the wedding plans should be put on hold? Exactly what it sounded like. Are you insane? Both families are already preparing everything. Then they should stop preparing. She stared at me, her voice trembling. What exactly are you throwing a fit about? I'm not throwing a fit. I looked at her calmly. I just suddenly don't want my life arranged for me anymore. What do you mean, arranged? This is how we've always been since we were kids. Yeah, I nodded. Ever since we were young, you've been used to me waiting for you no matter what. No matter who you took care of or sided with. In the end you could always come back and tell me. Don't overthink it. Her face turned pale from my words. Do you seriously have to blow this up to this level? Yes, I do. I slipped my car keys back into my pocket, my tone steady. Jane, let me say this one more time. Right now, we're nothing to each other. At most, we're just people who grew up together. As for what happens in the future, first figure out what it is you actually want. Tears streamed down her face instantly. You really want to draw the line this clearly between us? I looked at her. You were the one who drew the line a long time ago. Today I'm just finally admitting it. She grabbed onto my sleeve. Then give me a straight answer. Do you not want to marry me anymore? I didn't answer immediately. Wind rushed in through the entrance, blowing strands of hair across her face. I lifted my hand, gently removed hers from my sleeve, and only said one sentence. Right now, I don't. It looked like she had just been slapped across the face. Her whole body froze in place. I didn't explain further. I walked past her toward the parking lot. After a few steps, I heard her calling my name behind me. By the end, her voice had broken into sobs. I didn't turn around. My phone kept vibrating endlessly in my pocket, but I never looked at it. The moment the engine started, I suddenly realized how terrifyingly quiet everything around me had become, but it also felt lighter. Not the kind of lightness that came from defeating someone, just the feeling of finally no longer wanting to keep pretending. Chapter 4. For the next 3 days, Jane didn't come looking for me. She only sent scattered messages on WeChat. Did you get home yet? Auntie asked me today what you've been busy with, and I didn't know how to answer. Logan, can we please have one proper conversation? I saw every message. I replied to none of them, because the moment I answered, she would automatically assume the whole thing had blown over. And then the next round of "don't overthink it" would begin again. Friday afternoon, the department had a dinner gathering. Gabriel sat beside me holding a drink, lowering his voice. So you and Jane are seriously in a cold war now? Not exactly. Then what is it? It means I finally learned how to keep my mouth shut. He laughed. Probably a good thing. Saves you from always being the nice guy. I was just about to respond when the private room door was pushed open. Jane stood at the entrance. Damien was behind her. The entire room instantly went quiet. Even the waiter serving dishes slowed down. Gabriel cursed under his breath. They really know how to pick the perfect timing. Jane looked at me first. There was hesitation in her eyes, though she forced herself to smile. You guys are having dinner. I actually came to talk to you. Just happened to run into this. Damien smiled too, casually raising the car keys in his hand. I was giving her a ride. Thought I'd stop by and say hi. I leaned against my chair without standing up. You've said hi. You can leave now. The smile on Damien's face stiffened for a second before returning quickly. Logan, don't be so hostile. I didn't think things through last time. I owe you an apology. Would apologizing to me even matter? I looked at him. Can you control that troublemaking mouth of yours? Someone in the room couldn't help sucking in a breath. Jane's expression became awkward. Logan, can you stop talking so aggressively? Aggressively? I laughed. You brought him to my dinner gathering. What? Were you expecting me to applaud you too? She bit her lip, her voice lowering. That's not what I meant. Then what did you mean? I just wanted to talk to you. I don't. After saying that, I picked up my glass, clinked it against Gabriel's, and drank it in one go. Jane stood at the doorway for over 10 seconds. Her eyes slowly reddened bit by bit before she finally turned around and left. Before leaving, Damien glanced back at me. The corner of his mouth curled up like he was amused. Gabriel shut the door and gave me a thumbs up. All right, this time you're seriously standing your ground. I tugged faintly at the corner of my mouth. Halfway through dinner, my phone rang. It was my mom. The moment I answered, she asked sharply, "Where are you right now?" "Out eating." "Come home immediately. Aunt Lynn is here." I went silent for 2 seconds. What happened? What do you think happened? My mom was barely holding back her anger. You made Jane Lynn cry. Her mom already called me. Get back here and explain yourself clearly. I looked at the empty plates on the table and suddenly found the whole thing funny. Every time Jane and I had even the slightest conflict, both families would immediately drag me out and lecture me, automatically assuming I should be the one giving in. Today was no different. Fine, I'm coming back. I hung up, grabbed my coat, and stood up. Gabriel looked at me. Going back to put out another fire? To wrap things up? What's that supposed to mean? It means tonight. Everything gets said once and for all. By the time I got home, the living room was full. My mom, my dad, Jane's mother, and Jane. She sat at the edge of the sofa with red eyes. The moment she saw me come in, she stood up immediately, looking like she wanted to say something but didn't dare. Aunt Lynn spoke first, her tone still relatively polite. Logan, Auntie won't beat around the bush with you. Fight with Jane if you want, but the wedding banquet isn't something you can joke about. I placed my car keys onto the entry cabinet and gave a quiet hum. I'm not joking. Her expression changed instantly. What exactly do you mean by that? It means the wedding plans are on hold. As for everything after that, we'll talk about it later. My mom immediately lost it. What kind of nonsense are you talking about? I turned toward her. Mom, I'm not losing my mind. I just think marriage isn't something that should be decided with a few words from you all. Tears instantly fell from Jane's eyes. Do you really have to be like this? I looked at her calmly. I just don't want to keep getting pushed forward anymore. Chapter 5. The living room fell into dead silence. My dad stayed quiet for a long while before finally coughing lightly. Then give us a timeline. You can't drag this out forever. I nodded. Fine. 3 months. For the next 3 months, no one talks about marriage or wedding banquets. After that, I'll give a clear answer. Aunt Lynn frowned. 3 months. What? Are you treating marriage like a project schedule? You can call it whatever you want. My tone stayed flat. Still better than forcing things together the way they are now. Jane looked at me, crying so hard her shoulders trembled. Logan, do you just not want me anymore? I stayed silent for 2 seconds before answering quietly. Right now, all I want is some peace and quiet. After saying that, I turned around, went back to my room, and shut the door. Outside, my mom's lowered but furious scolding quickly mixed with Jane's crying until everything became a chaotic mess. I sat at the edge of the bed, took out my phone, and added another line to my notes app. That night, I barely slept. The arguing in the living room didn't stop until nearly 2 in the morning. Footsteps kept pacing back and forth outside the door until finally my dad's suppressed voice said, "Everyone calm down first," and the house gradually became quiet. At 6 the next morning, I got up to wash my face. The person staring back at me in the mirror looked swollen, with dark circles so heavy they almost looked bruised. My mom was cooking porridge in the kitchen. The moment she saw me come out, she threw the ladle back into the pot, her voice ice cold. "Today, you either go apologize to Jane, or you stop calling me your mother." I pulled out a chair and sat down, picking up chopsticks to grab some pickled vegetables. "Mom, don't escalate things this fast." "Escalate?" She laughed angrily. "You know exactly what kind of relationship you and Jane have had since childhood. That girl practically threw away her pride defending you in front of me. And you, one sentence about putting things on hold, and now both families are roasting over the fire because of you." I pushed the bowl away. "I'm full. Sit back down right now." I stood up and walked toward the entryway to change my shoes. "I'm going to be late for work, Logan." I didn't turn around. I simply shut the door behind me and left. The hallway smelled damp, the kind of suffocating air that comes before rain. It wasn't until the elevator reached the first floor that I realized my hands were shaking. The trembling annoyed me. I lit a cigarette. Halfway through it, a message from Jane popped up. "My mom spoke too harshly last night. Don't take it to heart. I have my own problems too. Let's both calm down for a few days. Are you eating lunch? I can bring you something." I stared at the messages for a while before replying with one word. "No need." She answered almost immediately. "Then make sure you eat on time." I stuffed my phone back into my pocket, crushed out the cigarette, and drove to work. Over the next few days, I deliberately packed my schedule full. During the day, I met clients. At night, I supervised post-production. Even after midnight, I could still sit there editing inventory footage until 2 in the morning. It wasn't that my career suddenly became the love of my life. I just didn't want to go home and listen to endless lectures about how I should give in to her. After watching me sleep at the office for 3 days straight, Gabriel asked if I was planning to become a monk. He laughed for a while before turning serious. "You really planning to leave things hanging like this for the whole 3 months?" "Yeah, she can handle that." I pushed the mouse forward casually. "If she can't handle it, that's her problem. You seriously don't feel bad?" I stayed silent for 2 seconds. I already used up all the sympathy I had. Gabriel stopped asking questions after that. He only tossed me a bottle of coffee. Thursday afternoon, Jane actually came. She stood at the company reception desk carrying an insulated lunch bag, wearing a beige sweater with her hair tied low. She looked unusually obedient and gentle. The receptionist girl winked at me. "Logan, your wife's here delivering a loving homemade meal." I glanced at her without correcting the statement. Jane walked over and placed the bag on my desk. "Your stomach's bad. Stop eating takeout all the time. Just leave it there." She remained standing. "Have you seriously not been going home lately?" "Yeah, why?" "Peace and quiet." Her face went pale for a second, fingers tightening around the bag handle. "Do you really have to be like this? I already told you I'm changing." I looked up at her. "You change however you want. I'll live however I want." "Logan, you never used to talk like this. And back then, I also wouldn't scroll through social media at 2 in the morning and see you accompanying another guy while he got in 4 drip." Her lips parted, but she couldn't say anything for a long time. I lowered my gaze back to the screen. "Anything else?" Her eyes slowly reddened. "Have you already sentenced me to death in your heart?" "No." A flicker of hope appeared in her eyes. Then I continued. "I just put you back where ordinary people belong." The moment those words left my mouth, tears rolled straight down her face. She raised her hand to wipe them away, forcing out a smile. "Okay, I understand now. Then go ahead and work. I won't bother you anymore." Chapter 6. When she reached the door, she turned back once more. "Eat the food while it's hot. Don't torture yourself out of stubbornness." I didn't respond. Only after she had walked far away did I open the insulated bag. Inside was chicken soup, millet porridge, and a box of sliced apples. Lemon juice had been squeezed over them so they wouldn't oxidize. I stared at the apples for a long moment, my chest tightening uncomfortably. Gabriel leaned over from behind me. "You gonna eat that? If not, give it to me." I closed the lid again. "Take it. You serious?" "Yeah." He picked up the bag while muttering to himself as he walked away. "I seriously can't understand whatever drama you two are acting out." I looked out the window without replying. But actually, I understood perfectly. Jane hadn't suddenly become better. She had only suddenly realized that I wasn't as steady and unshakable as before. People usually seem the most obedient when they're afraid of losing something. That weekend was originally my turn to have dinner at her family's house. In the past, I never missed days like that. Even if I had to work overtime until 9, I'd still show up first, then head back to the office afterward. This time, I simply didn't go. Her dad called me. I watched the screen ring until it hung up automatically. 10 minutes later, Jane called. I answered. She deliberately kept her voice low, probably hiding in the bathroom. You're really not coming? My dad's face looks awful right now. Yeah, at least give me a reason. I'm busy. Logan, you're making things really hard for me. I laughed faintly. Did you ever think about that when you made things hard for me before? Silence came from the other end. Before she could speak, I continued first. Eat your dinner. Don't worry about me. Then I'll come find you later. Don't. Why? You're annoying. Her breathing instantly became uneven. So now even seeing me annoys you? Yeah. The line stayed quiet for a long time. Finally, she spoke softly. Okay, I understand. After hanging up, I flipped my phone face down on the table and continued editing footage. Halfway through, WeChat automatically popped up a floating notification. Damien had posted a new status update. Caption: some people don't know how to cherish what they have. Some people deserve to be treated well. The picture showed 2 cups of coffee across from a girl whose face had been blurred out, but I recognized the thin bracelet on her wrist instantly. It was the birthday gift I had given Jane last year. I stared at the picture for a full minute. At the exact same time, Jane sent me a message. I'm home. Just finished dinner. I looked at those words and laughed. Then I replied with only 2 words. Good for you. After that, I removed our chat from the pinned conversations list. Chapter 7. Monday morning. The company held its regular meeting. I was in the middle of discussing this month's schedule when my phone vibrated twice on the table. It was a voice message from my dad. I tapped it open. The background was noisy, sounding like a crowded street market. Your Uncle Lin just fell near the neighborhood entrance. His ankle's swollen pretty badly. Jane can't handle him alone. So if you've got time, go help out. I paused for 2 seconds, closed the message, and continued flipping to the next slide in the presentation. Gabriel noticed my expression was off. Only after everyone left did he ask, "What happened?" Jane's dad fell. Then why aren't you going? I shut my laptop. He's not my dad. Besides, isn't Damien around? He's supposedly great at taking care of people. Gabriel couldn't find anything to say. Neither did I bother explaining further. At 1 in the afternoon, Jane called. I answered. My dad needs to go get scans done. I'm the only one here, and I can't lift him by myself. Can you come? Her voice sounded hoarse, like she had been crying. I leaned back in my chair, staring at the ceiling lights. Call Damien. Isn't he the expert at taking care of people? She exploded immediately on the other end. Logan, are you serious right now? That's my dad. And now you remember he's your dad. What exactly do you mean by that? It means it's finally your turn to figure out who actually counts as your own person. She breathed hard into the phone. I don't have time to argue with you right now. Are you coming or not? I stayed silent for 2 seconds before answering. I'll send Gabriel over. I don't want someone else. I want you. I'm busy. Then I hung up. I sent Gabriel the location and situation, telling him to bring someone over to help. He replied with a question mark and an extra line. You serious? I replied, yeah. 10 minutes later, he sent me a voice message, breathing heavily. I got them to the hospital. Not going yourself was honestly pretty cold, but damn, you really are ruthless. I turned off the voice message and tossed my phone into the drawer. At 5 in the afternoon, Jane sent me a long message. Today was the first time I understood how it felt when I used to keep calling you over for everything. I'm not pretending to be pitiful. I was genuinely panicking. Logan, can you stop punishing me like this? I read the entire thing and didn't reply. I suddenly realized she had finally started looking at things from my perspective, but she was too late. At 9 that night, I went home to grab some clean clothes. The moment I walked in, I noticed a folder sitting on the coffee table. The handwriting on the cover belonged to Jane. Preliminary wedding banquet plans, cancelled version. Underneath it was a sticky note. I know you don't want to look at these things right now. I'll put them away for now. Whenever you want to talk, I'll be here. I stared at the note for a very long time before finally folding it up and slipping it into my pocket. I didn't touch the folder. I picked up my bag and was about to leave when I heard keys turning in the lock. Jane pushed open the door. The moment she saw me, she froze. We stood across the entire living room looking at each other, neither of us speaking first. After a long while, she asked softly, "So now you don't even want to fight with me anymore, is that it?" I nodded. Yeah. Her eyes reddened, but she still forced out a smile. All right, at least this time, you didn't lie to me. Then she stepped aside to make room for me. You should go. As I walked past her, I caught the faint smell of medicine on her clothes, like she had just returned from the hospital. While going downstairs, I suddenly remembered something small. Back then, every time we fought, she would chase me all the way to the elevator and tug on my sleeve. Today, she didn't. Maybe that's what slowly growing cold looks like. Two people standing still in the same place, neither willing to take another step forward. Chapter 8. Over the next week, Jane never again said things like, "You have to come." She became very quiet. So quiet that sometimes I wondered if she had finally given up. Wednesday night, I worked overtime until 11. The convenience store downstairs was still lit up. I went down to buy coffee. While scanning my items, the cashier girl said, "Logan, your girlfriend came by again today. She left a box of stomach medicine for you at the counter." When I got back upstairs, I saw the medicine box still wrapped in the convenience store bag. A few words were written on it. "Take 2 after meals." The handwriting was messy, like it had been written in a hurry. I stared at it for a while before tossing the medicine into the drawer. I didn't take it, but I didn't throw it away either. The next morning, I drove to meet a client. Passing by the entrance of the old neighborhood, I saw Jane waiting for a ride by the roadside from a distance. She was wearing a dark blue coat, holding a thermos cup, looking down at her phone. Damien wasn't beside her. The light turned green. I pressed the gas and drove past. She never looked up, probably never even saw me. At that moment, I suddenly remembered years ago, when we were still in high school. Every morning she would wait for me at this same intersection so I could bike her to school. Back then, she hated the cold in winter. She would always shove her hands into the pockets of my school uniform jacket while complaining that my pockets were too shallow. I rolled the car window back up and didn't look a second time. During lunch break, Gabriel handed me his phone. "Look at this." It was a screenshot from the neighborhood residents group chat. Aunt Lynn was thanking everyone in the group, saying that Logan's friend had helped take someone to the hospital the other day, and she appreciated everyone's concern. Someone replied underneath, "Logan and Jane have both been reliable since they were kids. Can't wait for the wedding banquet. These two just look solid together. Childhood sweethearts really are different." Gabriel sighed when he saw I wasn't saying anything. "With the history you two have, cutting things off really is complicated." I pushed the phone back to him. "Complicated or not, it still has to end. Can you really end it?" I paused for 2 seconds. Little by little, that night, after returning to the studio, I took the stomach medicine out of the drawer, glanced at the instructions, then put it back again. My phone buzzed. Jane sent a message. "It's getting colder today. Drink less iced stuff." I stared at the chat box, my fingers hovering over the keyboard for a long time without moving. In the end, I only replied with one word, "MM." She quickly sent back, "Okay." I closed the chat window and continued editing photos. No matter how I adjusted the color temperature on the screen, it still looked wrong. I tried 3 times before finally giving up and starting over from scratch. Just like our relationship, no matter how much I tried to fix it, adjusting it over and over, the colors still came out distorted. At 1 in the morning, before shutting down my computer, I glanced at my phone again. Jane didn't send any more messages. Her profile picture lay quietly in my contact list. That was when I suddenly realized, she was starting to learn how to wait, and I was starting to learn how not to look back anymore. Chapter 9. Friday afternoon. Jane called me. I was adjusting the lights in the studio, still holding a light meter in my hand. The phone vibrated 3 times before I finally answered. "Are you coming home tonight?" she asked first. "Not sure. My mom made your favorite steamed fish. Come back and at least have a bite." "We'll see." She went silent for 2 seconds, like she was forcing down her temper. Every time, it's a "we'll see." So when exactly is the timing ever right? "Logan, can you talk like a normal human being for once?" I stuffed the light meter into my pocket. "I am talking normally." Her tone instantly turned cold. "Fine, then I'll talk normally too. Damien's leaving for another city tonight. He has a lot of luggage, so I'm taking him to the train station. Don't start making a big deal out of it later." I laughed. "Is this you informing me, or discussing it with me? Is there a difference?" "There is," I said. "If you were just informing me, you wouldn't need to make this call. Then take it as me informing you." She hung up immediately after that. I looked at the darkened screen. I wasn't angry. If anything, I found it a little funny. That whole "I understand now, I'll change" act from the past few days really hadn't lasted long. The hardest thing for people to change isn't their temper. It's dependency on familiar patterns. She was used to me cleaning up after her, so she always believed that after pushing a few more times, I'd eventually come back. At 10 that night, I finished work and went home. No one was in the living room. Half a bowl of cold fish soup sat on the table, with a sticky note pinned beside it. Went to take Damien to the station. "We'll talk when I get back." The handwriting was rushed. The final stroke of the word "talk" dragged long across the page, almost provocative. I crumpled the note into a ball and tossed it into the trash. At 11:40, the door opened. Jane deliberately made a huge amount of noise while changing shoes. like she was waiting for me to speak first. I sat on the couch flipping through a client contract without looking up. She was the first to lose patience. You're not even going to ask where I went. You wrote it on the note. That's it. What else? She threw her bag onto the couch, her voice sharp with hostility. Logan, you've actually become pretty disgusting lately. You don't yell. You don't fight. You act like some saint, but really, you keep score of everything inside your head. I closed the contract and finally looked at her. So you know I'm keeping score. And what if you are? She shot back. You still haven't left, have you? She said it lightly, like she was casually tossing the words out there. But knives work like that. The softer they're thrown, the deeper they cut. I nodded. Right, I haven't left yet, which is exactly why you think you can keep pushing. She sneered. Don't make yourself sound so miserable. Damien's traveling for work today. What's wrong with me giving him a ride? Haven't you driven female classmates home before? You're comparing that to this? Why can't I? Because after I dropped them off, I'd tell you where I went, who I was with, and when I'd be back. I stared at her. But you always act first. Notify me later. Then finish with don't overthink it. That hit the mark. Her face flushed red, then pale. After holding it in for a long time, she finally forced out one sentence. I can't be bothered talking to you. Then she turned and stormed into the bedroom, slamming the door so hard the whole apartment shook. I didn't follow. Half an hour later, I went to the balcony to collect the laundry when my phone popped up with a social media notification. Jane had just posted a status update. Some people only know emotional stonewalling when things actually get hard. Old friends are still the reliable ones. The photo showed the night view of the train station, a suitcase, and a cup of coffee. The top comment was from Damien. Thanks for the trouble. Be careful on the way back. People quickly joined in underneath. Who upset our Jane now? The childhood sweetheart guy again. Men like that deserve the cold shoulder. After reading it, I saved a screenshot and closed the page. She was trying to bait me back into the argument. Before, I definitely would have stormed in and demanded, what the hell is this post supposed to mean? Now, I wouldn't. I simply muted both of our family group chats. Chapter 10. Early the next morning, my mom called. What did you do to Jane again last night? What was that status she posted supposed to mean? Did you bully her? No. If you didn't, why would she post something like that? Mom, do you believe her or me? She paused on the other end, then immediately raised her voice. Don't try to twist this around. You're a grown man, stop being so stubborn. Jane already tried to give you an opening. So what exactly are you still putting on airs for? I stood by the window, staring at the steam rising from the breakfast stalls downstairs, and suddenly felt exhausted. Mom, let me ask you something. Go ahead. Ever since we were kids, whenever Jane and I had a conflict, did you always assume I should be the one to apologize first? She froze for a second. Well, you're a boy. What's wrong with letting her have her way a little? I've been letting her have her way for over 10 years. And did that make you suffer? Yes, I said. Very much. The other side went quiet. I continued. In middle school, when she fought with a classmate and tore up their homework notebook, I was the one who wrote the self-criticism letter for her. In our second year of high school, she skipped evening study hall to go watch a performance. I took the blame in front of the dean. In college, she and Damien went to the riverside at midnight. I drove through the rain to pick them up, and when I got home, you still scolded me for not getting there sooner. Do you remember any of that? My mother said nothing. You all think I'm supposed to tolerate her because we're childhood sweethearts, because our families are close, because all of you already treated marriage as the default ending for us, but nobody ever asked me if that was what I wanted. Logan, her voice softened. I'm not being cruel to you guys, I said while looking out the window. I just don't want to keep being the person who's responsible for everything anymore. The line fell silent again for a long time. Finally, my mother sighed. Then don't close the door completely. Leave yourself a way back. I already am, I replied. I didn't yell at her. I didn't completely tear things apart. I'm just stepping backward. After hanging up, I stood there for a long time. The pressure in my chest still hadn't disappeared, but at least now there was finally a crack in it. At noon, Gabriel came by to deliver some documents. On the way in, he shoved his phone in front of my face. Look, Jane posted again. I glanced at it. She had deleted last night's post and replaced it with a new one. Maybe I'm just not mature enough. Maybe that's why I keep pushing away the people I care about most. The comments section was full of people comforting her. Damien had replied too. You're great. Some people just don't know how to appreciate you. Gabriel clicked his tongue. She's really doing the whole slap you then give you candy routine. First she puts you on the spot, then turns around and acts pitiful. You're not gonna say anything. Say what? I flipped to the last page of the document and signed my name. If she wants to perform, let her perform. I just won't play along. Gabriel looked at me for a moment, then suddenly laughed. You know, The way you are now, you kinda remind me of your dad back in the day. What kind of vibe is that? No fighting, no comforting, no explaining. Like, if you all want drama, go ahead. I'm just gonna focus on living my own life first. I capped the pen. Sounds pretty good to me. Wait, what did you just say? That evening, I got home unusually early. The moment I opened the door, I saw Jane in the kitchen wearing an apron. Soup was simmering in the pot, filling the room with a rich smell. When she heard the door, she turned to look at me. Her eyes brightened for a split second before she quickly hit it. You're back. Perfect. The soup's almost ready. I went to wash my hands. She followed me to the doorway, her voice softening. I deleted that status from yesterday. I wasn't trying to throw shade at you on purpose. I was just angry. That's what you say every time. She bit her lip. Then what do you want me to do? I pulled out a paper towel and dried my hands. My tone calm. Stop posting our problems online for a bunch of people to judge. She immediately nodded. Okay, I promise. I didn't respond and went to sit at the dining table. When the soup was served, she filled a bowl for me and picked out all the chopped green onions like she always used to. She knew I didn't eat them. I took 2 sips. It actually tasted pretty good. She watched me carefully. Too salty. It's fine. She seemed to let out a breath of relief, then cautiously spoke again. So this weekend, could you come to the hospital with me? Grandma has a follow-up checkup next week. She keeps asking about you. I set down my spoon. Okay. Her eyes instantly lit up. Really? Visiting an elder is fine. Then while we're there. No, while we're at it. I looked at her. Visiting your grandmother is one thing. Marriage is another. The smile on her face slowly faded. After a long pause, she nodded. Okay. Halfway through dinner, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen, and her hand jerked so hard she almost dropped her chopsticks. Chapter 11. I caught a glimpse of the caller ID, Damien. She immediately declined the call and looked up at me with a quick smile. Spam call. I didn't expose the lie. I just kept drinking my soup. 10 seconds later, the phone rang again. This time she turned the phone off completely, her smile even stiffer. Scam calls are so annoying these days. I looked at her and suddenly found the whole thing ridiculous. She thought the issue was the number calling her. What actually bothered me was that even now, she was still telling lies so obvious they could be seen through at a glance. I put down my chopsticks and stood up. She froze. You're done eating? I'm full, Logan. I walked to the entrance and changed my shoes. Before leaving, I glanced back at her. Go ahead. Don't worry about me. Her face instantly turned pale. What did I do now? You know exactly what. I pulled the door open and walked out. The hallway lights flicked on at that exact moment, bright enough to make my eyes sting. Right then, I became certain of one thing. Her vulnerability and tears were only temporary. The only thing truly consistent about her was that tiny bit of wishful thinking. She was still gambling that I would come back, so I'd let her keep gambling, until she lost everything. The next morning, my dad unexpectedly messaged me himself and asked me to come home for lunch. Just the two of us. Let's talk. I replied with a simple, okay. When I arrived, he had already set the table. 2 dishes and a bowl of soup, all my favorite foods from childhood. As he served me rice, he got straight to the point. Your mom cried last night. She said you seem like a completely different person now. I picked up a piece of food. People change. It's fine to change. Just don't block off every path. He looked at me. As for you and Jane, forget what outsiders think. Your mom and Aunt Lynn have spent years looking out for each other. If you suddenly slam on the brakes like this, everyone's going to feel awful. I put down my chopsticks and looked up at him. Dad, do you know when I felt the worst? When? It wasn't when she went to find Damien. It was every time I said I was uncomfortable, and all of you told me to endure it. He froze for a second and stayed silent. I continued. Do you remember in college when I got that internship opportunity in a city? 3 months there, and I could have secured a full-time position afterward. But then she got into a fight with classmates in the middle of the night, and all of you said she was emotionally unstable and told me not to leave, to stay and keep her company first. In the end, I didn't go. The spot went to someone else. My father frowned. Wasn't that a special situation? Exactly. In your eyes, she's always the special situation. I laughed softly, and I'm always the one who can be postponed. He was silent for a long time before sighing deeply. On this matter, we were unfair. Hearing that sentence come from him, the stone pressing against my chest finally loosened a little. I lowered my head and took 2 bites of rice, my voice calmer now. I'm not trying to turn the 2 families against each other. I just don't want to keep acting out the script you all wrote for me. He nodded. I understand now. I'll talk to your mother. I gave a quiet just as I was about to pick up more food. My phone rang again. Jane. I glanced at it and didn't answer. She called 3 times in a row before finally sending a message. I'm downstairs at your building. Come down. I stared at the words, unable even to laugh anymore. At this point, she couldn't even be bothered to ask whether it was convenient for me first. When I went downstairs, she really was there. The car engine was still running, and there was a man's jacket sitting in the passenger seat. I glanced at the brand. Damien wore that brand all the time. She followed my gaze and quickly explained. He left it in my car this morning. I didn't have time to return it yet. Why are you telling me this? I looked up at her. I didn't ask. She choked on her words for a second, then immediately handed me her phone. Look, Grandma's follow-up appointment is this Saturday. I already booked it. Don't stand her up. I glanced at the time on the screen. I'll go. She visibly relaxed, then immediately tried to push further. Then after the appointment, let's all have dinner together. My parents will come too, and while we're at it, I already told you. No, while we're at it. Her expression turned cold again. Logan, are you seriously going to shut down every single conversation now? I'm not shutting things down. You're the one who keeps trying to turn every situation into leverage. She stared at me. Her eyes reddened, but no tears fell. Instead, she laughed softly. Fine, you win. Are you enjoying this now? Enjoying the feeling of having me under your control? I looked at her and suddenly felt like she was a stranger. See, I nodded. That's exactly who you are. When you do something wrong, your first instinct isn't to admit it, it's to slap a label onto me instead. Her breathing faltered. Her fingers clenched so tightly they turned white. I stepped back, my tone calm. I'll go see Grandma on Saturday, and after that, I'm leaving. Then I turned around and walked back upstairs without looking at her again. As the elevator doors closed, I heard her honking the car horn outside over and over, like she was venting her frustration. Standing inside the elevator, I suddenly felt incredibly calm. Before, I would have thought she was pitiful. Now, I only felt that she still hadn't suffered enough yet. Chapter 12. At 7:30 Saturday morning, when I arrived at the hospital entrance, Jane was already waiting there. She was dressed simply today. Her hair was tied up, and she barely had any makeup on. She looked thinner than usual. The moment she saw me get out of the car, she instinctively stepped forward, then abruptly stopped herself. In a small voice, she only said, "You came. Grandma's on the 3rd floor. Let's go." It was just the two of us in the elevator. She kept her head lowered, staring at the tips of her shoes while her fingers crumpled the registration slip into wrinkles. I noticed it, but said nothing. When we reached the hospital room, she went in first and called out, "Grandma," before turning back to wave at me. Her voice sounded lighter than before. "Logan, Grandma's been waiting for you forever." The old woman was leaning against the headboard. The moment she saw me walk in, her eyes lit up. "Logan's here. Come sit. Come sit." I placed the fruit I brought beside the bed. "You look healthier than last time." "That's thanks to you." Grandma smiled and patted the back of my hand. "You two shouldn't keep fighting all the time. You're not kids anymore. Settle down and get married soon so I can finally stop worrying." The room fell silent for a second after she said that. Jane stood nearby, her eyes locked tightly on me, like she was waiting for me to give her some dignity in front of her grandmother. I looked at Grandma and kept my tone as gentle as possible. "You should focus on recovering first. Everything else can come slowly. There's no rush." Grandma sighed. "You've always been such a steady child. Ever since you were young, you never let a single word slip." I smiled lightly but didn't respond. The follow-up examination dragged on until noon. Blood tests, scans, picking up reports. We ran back and forth several times. At one point Jane went to pay the fees while I pushed Grandma's wheelchair. The old woman kept saying how thoughtful Logan was, and every word made my chest feel heavier. What hurt wasn't the old woman. It was this relationship. All of us were pretending to keep things graceful and decent, but everyone already knew the connection had started to crack apart. When the results finally came out, the doctor said her recovery looked good and that she just needed to continue rehabilitation on schedule. Jane visibly relaxed. By the time we walked out, her eyes were already red. She helped Grandma into the car, then turned to me. "Come eat with us. Grandma wants you to stay a little longer too." "No." I checked the time. "I still have things to do." Grandma called to me from the back seat through the car window. "Logan, come by tonight. Grandma will cook noodles for you." I bent down slightly and smiled. "Next time. I really do have something today." The old woman looked like she wanted to say more, but Jane gently pressed her hand, stopping her from continuing. Before the car door closed, Jane looked at me and spoke quietly. "You're really that eager to leave? I told you from the beginning. Once I visited Grandma, I was leaving." The corner of her mouth trembled. She tried to smile but failed. "The way you talk now, you really don't leave any room at all anymore." I nodded. "There's no need to anymore." Her eyes instantly reddened, and she slammed the car door shut. As the car drove away, I stood at the hospital entrance, the midday sun making my head feel slightly dizzy. Chapter 13. At 3 in the afternoon, I went back to the studio to catch up on sleep. Around 5, my phone vibrated nonstop and woke me up. Gabriel had tagged me in the group chat. "Hurry up and check the neighborhood group. It's blowing up." I opened the screenshots. The very first one was a long post Jane had written. paired with a photo of her and Grandma's backs in the hospital parking lot. The caption was dramatic enough to tug at emotions. Some people promise they'll come, but when they do, they feel like strangers passing through. Turns out caring can be an act, and so can coldness. The comments section was full of comfort and sympathy. Don't wrong yourself like this. You deserve someone better. Some people just aren't worthy. Damien replied underneath with a fist emoji written out as fist emoji. You've already handled this with enough grace. I stared at the word grace for a while and ended up laughing from anger instead. Same old routine. First she throws me onto the stage of public opinion, then waits for me to explain myself. Before, I would have rushed over to make her delete the post, argued with her, begged her to take it back. Now, I couldn't even be bothered performing anymore. I directly exited the group chat, changed my profile picture to a pure black background, and set my moment's visibility to 3 days only. Gabriel called immediately. You're really just letting it go like that? You're not scared everyone's gonna trash talk you? Let them. I leaned back in the chair. I'm not the one dating them. There was a 2-second silence on his end before he cursed. You're seriously wide awake now. At 7 that night, I went home to pack the last batch of my things. The moment I walked in, I saw a whole room full of people sitting in the living room. My mom, my dad, Aunt Lynn, and Jane Lynn. 4 pairs of eyes turned toward me at once. The air felt so heavy it could almost be wrung out like water. My mother spoke first, her voice tense. Where were you? We called you and you didn't answer. Sleeping. You could still sleep at a time like this. She slammed the table angrily. Jane cried that hard today. How much longer are you planning to drag this out? I stood my suitcase beside the door. I'm not here to drag anything out. I'm here to move my stuff. Jane abruptly stood up. What do you mean? Exactly what it sounds like. You're moving out. Her face turned ghostly pale. She took 2 steps toward me, then stopped herself halfway, like she was afraid I'd really turn around and leave. Logan, don't use this to scare me. I looked at her calmly. I'm not trying to scare you today. I'm here to finish this conversation. Aunt Lynn cut in, her tone hardening. Logan, our families have known each other for decades. What you're doing is too much. Even if Jane made mistakes, it's not your place to humiliate her like this. I nodded. Auntie, you're right. Even if she made mistakes, she shouldn't be publicly humiliated. Then what exactly was that post she made in the group today? Aunt Lynn instantly choked on her words. Jane bit her lip as tears rolled down her face. I was emotional at the time. You're emotional every single time. I looked at her, and every time after that. I'm the one expected to clean things up for you. You've been playing this game for years. My mom panicked. Stop digging up old history. I'm only asking you one thing right now. Are you still getting married or not? The living room instantly fell silent. I looked directly at my mother. My voice wasn't loud, but every word was crystal clear. No. My mother looked like someone had grabbed her throat. For a long time, she couldn't say a single word. Jane's eyes widened as if she hadn't understood what she heard. What did you say? I said, no. I pronounced every word clearly. We're not together anymore, and we never will be again. She lunged forward and grabbed my arm, her hand trembling violently. You can't say that. You weren't like this before. You said you'd always stay. I said a lot of things before. I removed her hand from my arm, and I spent a lot of years proving them. I've done enough. Her tears splashed onto the floor. Even her voice cracked apart. Is this all because of Damien? I already told you I'd change. It's not just because of him. I looked at her. It's because every single time, you choose the option that feels best for yourself first, and then ask me to understand afterward. Understanding you once or twice is fine, but after more than 10 years, no. She stood frozen in place, lips trembling, unable to force out a complete sentence. Chapter 14. I pulled open the suitcase, stuffed the last few pieces of clothing inside, then turned toward the door. At the entrance, I stopped for a moment and looked back at her. Jane, it's not that I suddenly stopped loving you, I said. I was slowly pushed away by you, one day at a time. Whoever you want to be with in the future has nothing to do with me anymore. And stop testing my limits. After saying that, I pulled the door open. Behind me came Jane's crying first, then my mother's muffled scolding, and finally my father's quiet sentence. Let him go. I walked downstairs. The night wind hit my face, cold enough to clear my head. As I drove out of the neighborhood, I saw the lights in the building glowing floor by floor through the rearview mirror, like an endless stack of unpaid emotional debts. I never looked back again. A month later, I moved to the west side of the city. The new place wasn't big, but the windows faced south. In the afternoons, sunlight could fill the entire studio. Gabriel cursed me every day for being cheap, saying the place was so tiny even the break room felt cramped. I told him it was good enough. My mother came by once. She brought 2 containers of soup. After entering, she never mentioned Jane. She only asked whether I had been sleeping well and whether my stomach still hurt. Before leaving, she stood at the door for a long time. In the end, She only said one sentence. You chose this road yourself. Don't regret it. I smiled lightly. I won't. Later. Jane came once too. She didn't come upstairs. She only sent me a message from downstairs. I'm at the entrance. If you don't want to see me, I'll leave. I stared at the words and replied 5 minutes later. Don't wait. She replied with a simple okay and said nothing else after that. That evening, I finished work early. Passing by a flower shop, I casually bought a bouquet of white balloon flowers and brought them to visit Grandma. When the old woman saw me, she smiled kindly and asked whether I had been busy lately. She didn't ask about Jane. She didn't ask about marriage either. Before I left, she held my hand and sighed softly. In this lifetime, don't wrong yourself. I nodded. As I walked out of the hospital room, the wind in the hallway felt a little cold. Suddenly, I realized that many things had actually ended long ago. We just loved leaving ourselves a maybe. And now, I had personally crossed out that maybe. On the last day of the year, Gabriel dragged me to the riverside for drinks. He said we finally finished acting out this whole terrible drama and deserved to celebrate. The wind was fierce, strong enough to make even the beer taste faintly metallic. Halfway through drinking, he suddenly asked me, "Do you still think about her sometimes?" I thought for a moment, then nodded. Occasionally. Then do you regret it? No. He asked again, have you really completely let go? I looked at the car lights crossing the bridge in the distance and smiled faintly. If I never truly had it in the first place, then what is there to let go of? I finished the last mouthful of beer and stood up, brushing the dust off my jacket. The sound of the wind over the river was loud, carrying everything away with it, except people still have to pull themselves back to shore on their own.